Hi and welcome to my first lesson. We're going to start with a skills exercise and focus on adjectives. I'm sure you've come across them before. We're going to look at the meaning of them and importantly the effect of them. Then we're going to move on to analysing very closely two different types of texts, answering questions and also comparing them. Now, don't forget at any time, feel free to pause me and have a closer look at those texts and get your pens, exercise books, paper, whatever, handy to have a go at answering the questions either during or after the lesson. Okay, here goes. Adjectives. I'm sure you know what they are. They are describing words, or more specifically, they describe nouns. Now, we're going to play a little game to start with to get your brains going. I call it alphabet adjective. You're going to need a piece of paper and a pen and put down the letters on one side of the page, the alphabet letters. Now, what we're going to try and think of is adjectives that begin with each letter of the alphabet, right? I'll help you with the first 2, 3, 4, and then hopefully you can find different words for those letters and then continue through the alphabet. Right, I will tell you is it appears easy at times, but it will stop you in your tracks and you'll think, wow, what's an adjective that starts with this letter? Okay, so can you think of an adjective for A? Let's go. Right, it takes a little bit of thought. Attentive, maybe. B. Often colours come to my mind, so we can place all those in with different colours. So we got B for blue. C, well, cold. D, ooh, dull. E, excellent. Right, got the gist? Now, you have a go. Don't give up, especially on the X and the Z. I'll bet you found some of those challenging and they did stop you in your tracks. Well, there are a few like X and Z. Well, maybe you did have a sneaky look in the dictionary and you could have X for xenophobic, which means hatred of foreigners or strangers. And Z, well, you could have described a pattern as zigzagged. Alright, now let's have a look at some of these reading texts. I hope you've had a good look at the text and also answered the questions, and hopefully now I will illuminate some of the answers, which I'm sure you know, and you know it's a recipe, and that recipe can be found in all kinds of texts and media forms. It can be found in magazines and newspapers, it can be found online, it can be found of course in cookbooks, just to name a few. Now, the audience, and what I mean by the audience is who is it aimed at? Well, the clue is in the title. I know somebody would say, well, it's for people who are interested in cooking and eating. Okay, but more accurately, it's the word healthy, I think, that gives it away. Is aimed at people who want to eat healthily. Now, what's its purpose? Well, its purpose is to inform and it also to instruct, which leads us on to its structure. All right, it's structured to help us have the knowledge and also how to do this recipe. Now, you'll see, of course, it's got the heading at the top, but then it's structured into two parts, in the kind of two columns, two lists. On the left-hand side, it's got a list of the ingredients, all right, which are groups of words. We don't need words like you will need, right? Our brains will understand that. anyway. But on the right hand side, it is a list of instructions, which is obviously very common to instructional language. We call these, they are commands, but they are called, in terms of using a technical word anyway, the use of imperatives. And if you look at the beginnings of the sentences, you will see these verbs, and you will often see them repeated, although it's trying, if you like, is to use different ways of beginning to make it more interesting rather than just repeating it all the way through. Okay, now it's of course using brackets, right, is to place in additional information. So when it says the recipe is for 4, for example, in the first column, I mean, it's not an ingredient, so therefore it's got brackets around it, but it is a useful piece of information. Now, in terms of language, it is fairly basic, and therefore it is going to reach a kind of wide audience who will understand most of the vocabulary. But there are 1 or 2 odd words that always, I think, even in basic text, will surprise people. The word method, for example, hope you've worked out it means how to make. Okay, now what I've tried to do with answer a question on what is meant by drizzle is give you 3 options, and I've done that because you're going to have that type of question in the exam. You're going to have that type of question in the exam, and hopefully you're going to get it right. And if you don't the first time, go and have a look at the word again in its context. All right. So, what does drizzle mean? And I'm sure you've come up with the answer is to trickle over. All right. It usually means a small quantity of liquid that's trickled over. It's not poured totally over on the in this case this recipe. Anyway, hope you've got that. Let's have a look at our second text today. Where is it from? Well, it's actually from a magazine and has those typical features of a magazine as well. I mean, it is in column, it has a heading, typical kind of paragraphs in terms of only 1 or 2 sentences. They're usually short. And in this particular case, the language, as it is a historical piece of information, the language is formal, and it's written in the past tense and in 3rd person. And by 3rd person, I mean it's written from the point of view is you're writing about someone else. Of course, it is full of facts, and often you have in an informational piece like this, you have statistics or dates. In this particular case, you've got a lot of dates, and you've got a lot of proper nouns, and by proper nouns I mean naming words that deserve capital letters. Now then, as a historical piece of writing, again, it's got these features that normally they're written in this particular case about Lady Rhonda in chronological order. What I mean by that is it's in a time order. Now you may be saying, hang on a minute now, it could have been elsewhere other than a magazine, and you're probably right. I mean, you could have found this kind of piece of information as part of a fact file. You could have found it on the internet. You could have found it in history books, and you are absolutely right. As for its audience, who would be interested in this kind of thing? Well, yeah, people in general, but people interested in history, maybe more specifically in local history. Now then, I hope you answered the question successfully. The first one, well, why did she go to prison? Well, she set fire to a post box in Newport. Now, give 2 reasons why she is an important historical figure. Well, it could be a number of reasons. I've got 6 that you can choose two from. There was possibly even another couple of reasons, but here goes. Number 1, she set up the first branch of the suffragettes in Newport. Number 2, she was an international businesswoman. Number 3, she was a founder and editor of Time and Tide, an important newspaper during the interwar period. 4, she was a prominent activist and a leader of the suffragette movement. Number 5, she went to prison for setting fire to a postbox in Newport. And lastly, she was the first woman to try to enter the House of Lords. Right, hope you got your 2. After these discussions, I think it's important that you go back and you annotate fully the language texts and also make additions to your answers, and this will be part of your revision in the future. Just to finish, I just wanted to say watch out for my second lesson, which is also going to be starting with a skills exercise and then leading on to more reading texts, where hopefully the skills exercise will dovetail with the reading exercise. Also, let me tell you that I've also released online is 5 videos, spelling videos, that's going to help you generally with units 2 and 3 with your spelling, and obviously then with the section B, which is the writing section, which they will be looking very closely at what's called SPAG, spelling, punctuation and grammar. I'm also releasing soon as well is a GCSE literature course following the WJEC syllabus again. Schools are allowed to teach different books, but I'm going to start with Shakespeare, and it'll be videos on Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet, which it seems to me anyway in Gwent is a lot of the schools are choosing those texts to do their extended essay on Shakespeare as part of coursework. So, see you soon.